And this morning we come to one of David's greatest hits in the Psalms, Psalm 18. That's saying something because David was the Paul McCartney of the Psalm writers. He wrote more than half of the Psalms, and along the way, man, many of them were number one smashes in their time. This one, Psalm 18, this was David's Bohemian Rhapsody. This is his stairway to heaven. We know this was a popular psalm because the author of 1 Samuel and 2 Samuel, which is largely a biography of David's life, before he records the story of David's death in his final words, he includes this psalm in his record as a tribute to David. It's an epic poem. It's Shakespearean in the quality of its writing. The imagery David uses is rich, his vocabulary robust. It's Homeric for its length. This Odyssean tale of how God swooped down and rescued David from the jaws of death and then set him down on the very throne of Israel itself, where he became the mightiest king and warrior of his age. It's Harry Potter-esque for the story it tells. And what is that story? If you look at the beginning of the psalm, you'll see a little note right there. At the very beginning, it says, to the choir master. We have to remember these are actual songs that were used in worship back in the day. A psalm of David, the servant of the Lord, who addressed the words of this song to the Lord on the day when the Lord rescued him from the hand of his enemies and from the hand of Saul. If you remember David's story, God promised him when he was as young as Harry Potter as a boy that one day he was going to be king. But there was one problem. There was already a king on the throne, a Voldemortian king named Saul, and he wasn't about to yield his throne to this ruddy-faced whelp. And so for most of the decade, Saul hunted down David to kill him. Finally, after 10 years of running, David destroys the Horcruxes. He gathers up all the deathly Hallows. I have no idea what I'm talking about. But Saul is killed in battle, and David at last becomes king. And that's why David writes this psalm. It's why it's longer, too. For David now has the time to write. He wrote a lot of his psalms during those 10 years when he was on the run. You look at Psalm 142, you'll see the note there before that one. It says David wrote it in a cave. That's what it was like for him back then. Well, you can't write long, thoughtful songs when you're in a cave, looking over your shoulder every so often, wondering if you got to make a run for it. But now he has the time. So he writes this memorable psalm in worship and thanks to God who delivered him. But, and here's why the psalm is so inspirational, David also writes it for us, to let us know that what God did with him, he also wants to do with us. He wants to rescue us and bring us up and train us up that we'll live lives of fruitfulness and growth and freedom. What I've long loved about Psalm 18 is that it provides a roadmap for us of spiritual training and growth.